I'm Savina Schoenhofer. I was born the second child and the eldest daughter in a family of 9 children. I spent my early years on the family cattle ranch in Kansas. My name, Savina Francis, came from my maternal grandfather, an Italian who was a classical musician in Kansas City, Missouri. His name was Savino. I have a daughter, Carrie, and a granddaughter, Emma. I retired from teaching in 2014, and since then, I've divided my time between Jackson, Mississippi, and Mount Dora, Florida, where my partner, Gwen Basset, and I are ruled by our 3 dandy Denmont Terriers. During the 1960s, I spent 3 years in the Amazon region, working as a volunteer in community development. And it was during this experience that I first witnessed professional nursing. And in fact, it was the influence of a nurse I worked with in Brazil, Colonel Ann Nenninger, that led me into nursing in my late 20s. After I returned from Brazil, I studied at Wichita State University, earning a double degree in nursing and psychology in 1972. And I began my teaching career at Wichita State in 1974 while I was still in my master's program in counseling. Later, I also earned a master's in nursing at Wichita State, and it was at Wichita State where I met a second lifelong nursing mentor, Marilyn Parker. In 1983, I completed a PhD in Educational Foundations and Administration at Kansas State, and I accepted a teaching position in the College of Nursing at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida. In 1994, I moved to Texas and then to Mississippi, teaching at Texas Tech, Alcorn State, and the University of Mississippi Schools of Nursing. And though I retired from teaching in 2014, I've continued to be involved in my nursing theory work. Now I want to introduce my friend and colleague, Ann Boykin. Although Ann couldn't be with us today, I want you to know her too, because together we developed the theory of nursing as caring. And we've spent the last 33 years working together and with others, refining the theory and helping nurses use the theory in practice, research, teaching, and administration. Ann was born in Appleton, Wisconsin, the second oldest of 6 children. She wanted me to share with everyone that she learned caring early on from her parents and from her grandmother. Ann earned her BSN from Alverno College in Milwaukee, her master's from Emory University, and PhD from Vanderbilt. Ann was dean of the Christine E. Lynn College of Nursing at Florida Atlantic University for 30 years. And on her retirement in 2011, the Ann Boykin Institute for the Advancement of Caring in Nursing was founded to carry on her work. Ann is currently director of the Institute, and she enjoys retirement in Asheville, North Carolina, with her husband, Steve. She has 3 daughters, Lisa, Ingrid, and Anna, and a son, Christopher.
Well, Savina, I'm so glad you agreed to do this interview.
Thank
and I
you.
know our viewers are just going to be so pleased to hear about nursing as caring.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah. So today we're going to start with, actually what I like for you to do is kind of tell me how it all got started. And of course, I know that you've worked with Ann Boykin many years.
Yes.
But I'm also interested in how the two of you began to work together, and whose idea was this originally, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I first went to FAU in 1983, and Ann was already on faculty. And I think it was the second year of the program. And so we were involved in doing the self-study for NLN accreditation.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end of that year, Anne became the director of the program, it was at that time. And I was the curriculum leader. And the whole faculty worked together. They already had the concept of caring that was the focus of their curriculum. And so as a faculty, we tuned that up and improved it and developed it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were finished, Anne and I looked at each other and we said, well, we don't want to stop here. We want to go forward because, you know, the curriculum was the work of the whole faculty.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of consensus building and compromising in that.
Mm-hmm.
We had ideas that we weren't able to extend in the curriculum work, but we decided that we wanted to develop a theory of nursing, sort of based on some of the ideas that were in the curriculum, but going well beyond those. When I came to FAU, I had a background in nursing theory and theory development because I taught at a program where we had adopted an Orem curriculum.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And I memorized the two books, the Nursing Development Conference Group book on concept formalization, process, and product.
Mm-hmm. I had a copy of that book.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. And so that's, and I had mentioned before, well, not to this group, but I took a double major in college, nursing and psychology. And then my first job out of school was in a community mental health center. And so I always had the question, what is it, what's the uniqueness that nursing brings to the situation? I could understand when I took the course, Systems and Theories of Philosophy, they told us, you know, and they told us several theories.
Yeah.
But when I studied nursing, nobody ever told me or could explain it or state it in a way that tracked for me and carried through. And so that was always my burning issue, and that's why I really loved the Orem theory and the Orem curriculum, because it had a really explicit nursing focus. On the other hand, Anne came with a background in caring, in putting the original curriculum together, in studying some of the early works on caring. And interestingly enough, kind of coincidental, in 1972, I was given a book on caring.
Oh, okay.
I was going through a particular sort of crisis situation, and a friend gave me that book, and of course I read it and loved it. But I was one of those nurses who had come up, you know, insisting that we put nursing on a scientific basis. And for us at that time, caring was a distraction. It was something that could not be systematized, or, you know, it couldn't advance nursing as a discipline. That's what I thought.
Well, and there was a lot of discussion around that because we aren't the only ones that care, was something people would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so Anne sort of brought the caring, and I sort of brought the theory, nursing theory development. And we actually worked with the nursing concept development group, and used their standards for evaluating the adequacy of a concept of nursing.
Oh, okay.
And so the first thing we struggled with, and we would just sit down like this and we would talk, you know, how can we state the unique focus of nursing among all the disciplines and professions? How can we state that in a way that we can buy into and we can feel like we can fully justify.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our first work. And we would talk back and forth, and we would, be very open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And we sharpened each other's thinking through that open dialogue.
Yeah.
Then we went to the next question, and we came up with a statement of focus for our theory, and that is the unique focus of nursing is nurturing persons, living caring, and growing in caring.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we've had that and we're satisfied with that, we moved on to the question, what is it that nurses do? How do they do what they do? Why do they do what they do?
Mm-hmm.
And what is created through nursing?
Mm-hmm.
And after we had these discussions over several months, then we decided, okay, we're ready to start writing the book that explicates the theory.
Uh-huh.
And I think early on, about 1991, we presented sort of the initial idea of nursing as caring at a theory conference in Miami.
Can you talk about research, and is it used in administration in some of the hospitals? It seemed to me they were starting that when I was in Florida.
Yes, I'll talk about administration first.
Okay.
Some of the early projects that Ann and I did were with basically people who had been our graduate students and who were in leadership positions in hospitals. So we did a wonderful project at JFK Hospital in Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's another name now, but anyway, it was a brand new unit, a cardiac step-down unit. And so we had the CEO of the hospital on board,
Mm-hmm.
and the director of nursing, and a brand new nurse manager for the unit.
Mm.
And so we went in and worked with them to learn about caring and to learn about nursing as caring,
Mm-hmm.
and helped them develop their framework for practice on that unit. And we had one of, I guess you could say this is research too, because part of what we were doing was looking at the Press-Ganey scores,
Mm-hmm.
the patient satisfaction, the staff satisfaction,
Mm-hmm.
staff retention, those kinds of things, as well as the patient outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was a very successful project. The nurse manager was fully on board and very involved in the project. The staff members, all the staff, including custodial people,
Mm-hmm.
dietary people,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the nursing staff, were involved. And it worked out very well. And as far as I know, it's still continuing in some form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did kind of that type of work at UT Medical Center, and it was modeling and role modeling is what was being implemented. But we did a lot of things, and my outcomes were the same kind of things: Press-Ganey scores, and satisfaction, and decrease in turnover of nurses, and I did that and wrote that up all in the context of action research and the cycles, because you kind of go through cycles.
Yes.
You get people to a certain level, and then you can take them to the next level. So
One
I
of the
really
things
understand that.
One of the things that came out of that work, as far as the ongoing development of the theory, was this concept of direct invitation, which wasn't initially part of the theory, but now is.
Well, say more about that, what you mean by that.
One of our ideas is that once nurses know what nursing is and can articulate that clearly, then we need to make sure patients know what nursing is and why the nurse is there. Not just to carry out the physician's orders, but what's the nursing part of their being there? And so we designed this approach, and the nurse would walk into the patient's room and introduce themselves and say, I'll be your nurse today, and how can I be with you today in a way that matters to you?
Okay.
So that was a direct invitation to understand, to hear the call for caring, and then to be able to create effective caring responses.
Well, that's really beautiful. That's really a good idea too. Hospital experiences I've had lately, a nurse comes to the door and kind of leans on the door jamb, and says, "Is there anything I can do for you?" But it's not like the invitation you're describing. Yes. It sounded much warmer and much more intentional.
It is intentional, and it's focused on nursing. And one of the experiences that illustrate how that worked, it's kind of a dramatic experience, but it did happen. At JFK, a nurse went in and asked the lady, how could they be with her today in a way that would matter? And she was a lady that had had a stroke, and she was a piano player, pianist. And I think she played for her church. She definitely played for family and friends. And she was close to discharge. So her big concern was, will I be able to continue sharing my music? And the nurse knew that there was a piano in the lobby of the hospital. So, and this was a man. He gathered up some colleagues. They went downstairs, got the piano, brought it up in the elevator, wheeled it into the person's room, helped her get to the piano, and she could play. And that illustrates as an outcome. Ann and I have done quite a bit of work on trying to relanguage outcomes so that they are truly outcomes of caring as expressions of nursing. And we would say the outcome there was enhancing personhood. Like she became more of who she was. One of the major ways she lived caring in her life was to share her music. So through that experience, her personhood was enhanced. And of course, everybody who was involved with that situation felt and talked about an increased sense of themselves as caring persons.
That's really a beautiful illustration.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah, it is.
It's just,
it's
so dramatic, but it actually happened.
Oh, I understand. I understand.
But you've been a nurse a long time, and you know that we all have stories.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are very dramatic. Some of them are very everyday. But they are meaningful to us.
Oh, and they stay with you.
Stay with you. And in fact, if we want to think of the core of nursing and nursing as a holistic enterprise, then it makes sense to study those stories because that's where everything is integrated, that's where it lives. And we can bring in different theories to analyze and understand, but if we have the story intact, we always have the wholeness of the nursing situation.
And that makes me think of Orem. I mean, I've heard her say those very things, that was where she was coming from. And she always kind of poo-pooed abstract kinds of things, but I've seen both ways,
Yes.
And have seen the value in both ways.
Well,
and
one of
that.
Meyerhoff's ingredients of caring is alternating rhythms. So it's always a back and forth between, if you have your nursing situation, whether it's in your heart, whether you've written it, or whether you're studying someone else's, then you can go out, even into other fields, medicine, psychology, sociology, whatever, environmental sciences. You also go out into nursing middle range theories and bring in information that helps you understand this situation in context. And it's sort of difficult to talk about, but it's studying nursing all at once,
Yeah.
the wholeness
Yeah,
of
that's
nursing.
right. Now, if you're at a conference and someone says, well, tell me, nursing is caring. What do you all mean by that? What's your short answer?
What we mean by that is, as Madeline Leininger put forth, and I think is pretty well accepted today, caring is the essence of nursing. And so when we say nursing as caring, we mean that every single action, the thoughts, even the values, the beliefs that lead to the thoughts, and the thoughts that lead to the deliberate action, that all needs to be bathed in caring. It all needs to be suffused with caring. It needs to be an expression of caring. And in order to care effectively, we need to study about caring. Yes, we all have natural caring instincts, and yes, we've all learned caring at our mother and father's feet, and we all have ways of caring with each other. But when we're talking about a profession that is grounded in caring, that should be the major element of our study. And when it is, that can be the major experience of nursing for the nurse and for the patient, for the family, for the institution. I want to tell you about this concept of dance of caring persons.
Yes.
Which that evolved when Ann and I were consulting with a life care facility that was just being opened up, brand new staff, didn't even have any residents yet. And the directors or the owners of this facility were perceptive enough to realize that it needed to be grounded in caring, and that nursing was probably the discipline that could help them do that. So they called the university main office and asked for somebody who could help them learn about caring. And we got the call, which was a terrific opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things we did was we invited all of the people who were on board at that time. That was the gardener, the nutritionist, the people who would carry the trays, the laundry people, the nursing and LPN staff, the director of nursing, the CFO, and the CEO. The CEO and the CFO were both members of the owner family. We invited them all to come into the conference room, big conference table. Everybody sat down, and we invited each one of them to think of a situation that illustrated how they care or how they would care through their role. And some of the people really didn't speak English. I could kind of translate, but everyone, the gardeners recognized that when they cleaned the debris off the paths, when they made beautiful flowers and plants for people to enjoy, that was how they cared. That's how their caring was contributed to this setting. And I remember the electrician talked about how noticing that a light bulb was out and changing that light bulb was a way of enhancing safety, which was a way of caring. And all the way through that whole group, everyone told their story. And so the next time we were to come with a organizational chart that would help guide the relationships in this setting. And we came up with the idea of the dance of caring persons.
Oh, okay. I wondered where that came from.
That's where that came from.
Yeah.
And we worked with an artist on our staff at FAU, and she made these colored overlays, like the gardening staff would be one color, and then she'd overlay the kitchen staff and overlay the
So
custodians.
it looks like they're all dancing together.
And they are, and actually they are, but each can see their own contribution go into the whole.
Oh, okay.
And that's where that idea originated.
Oh, okay. I've always wondered about that, how well, and what the real connection was. Well, now, do you consider this work your major contribution to nursing?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, okay.
Without a doubt.
Would Anne say that too?
Oh, yes. I
Would
believe.
she?
Well,
Her
she led the
deanship,
deanship. She was in the deanship for 30 years and led an outstanding faculty and curriculum. But it's definitely mine. We haven't really talked about research, but I actually, when I was first starting the study and the work in caring, I did a whole series of studies that were, the focus was everyday caring. And I had learned in doing another research project, I had learned that the focus group approach yields so much good dialogue and so much learning. And so I sort of eventually put together a focus group method with phenomenology and created an approach for my research in which people came together in groups and they would tell a story about how they lived their own caring in their daily lives. These weren't nurses, these were everyday, everyday caring. Sometimes I would work with nurses. But then and everyone would share their story, and I would always ask everyone to finish by writing one line that says nursing is, and try to capture the essence of their story in that nursing is statement. So then as a group, we would work with those statements, having already heard the stories, and we would generate a statement that expressed caring as it was lived by the group as a whole.
Oh, okay.
So it was synthesizing. And the fun part, the exciting part of that was the group actually did the synthesis. It wasn't just the researcher taking the material over here and sorting through it and sifting through it and creating an understanding. It was the group process.
Well, this has been so interesting.
I've enjoyed it.
Well,
I've
I have
talk.
thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know the viewers are going to be so interested.
Well, I hope
and
so.
We're sorry that Anne couldn't be
Yes,
here. The
I am too.
situation. Anne Boykin, Dr. Boykin, was not able to be here, but we're so glad, Savina, that I should say Dr. Schoenhofer, that you were able to do this. And I want to thank you for agreeing to do this interview, because
Well, you are so
it's been
welcome.
a delight.
Thank you for the opportunity. It
Well,
has been fun.
It has been fun.
I
That's
want
right.
your viewers to know that talking theory can be a lot of fun.
That's right. And working and doing it is
Yes.
fun
Oh,
too.
yes.
It just, they have to get in, and begin to learn about it. And some have talked to me that that's the part that's not easy. It seems very foreign at first. And I say there's just different ways to think about theory. That's all it is, different ways to think about nursing and the patient and so forth. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.